All right, folks, it's July 3rd. Happy Canada Day.
Happy Canada Day.
And you're back with the Broadcast Bullies. We are in the E-Spot today. I'm Andrew Boyce.
And I'm Ryan Troke. All right, let's get it started with World Cup. I've still got World Cup fever. It's still in my system. Haven't taken the vaccine yet. And we're all the way to the quarterfinals. But we've got to talk about what was an intense round of 16. Starting with the hosts almost... I don't know, is it going home or is it just staying home?
Yeah, you don't know if they have World Cup fever or about a malaria the way they're playing it. It seems to me that everybody on that squad, save Neymar, is playing with a lot of trepidation and really it feels like they're holding something back.
Yeah, and you saw it through the group stages and you thought, okay, they didn't squeak out. That's not giving them enough credit. But considering how well they should have performed during the group stage, you expected them to snap out of it for the knockout round. And they go to penalties against a good Chilean squad, but not a Chilean squad that was picked to compete that well. No, exactly. And I mean, this has to be a wake up call for them. You'd think. If they didn't already have one.
It's funny, their manager, Scolari, after the Chilean game, he felt a lot of his players' composures had been broken. He actually got them together Tuesday and booked a session with their team psychiatrist.
Not a bad idea.
To get their heads around it, because he recognizes, well, I hope he recognizes, but it's very obvious that they don't seem to be in the right mindset.
No, and... You know what? And if they do lose to Colombia, because Colombia's got a good squad as well, it wouldn't be a surprise. It would just be heartbreaking for that whole nation. I don't want to be a Colombian in Brazil if they win. You know what I mean?
At the same time, I don't want to be a Colombian on that team if they lose. This is a Colombian team that is firing right now. Probably the best looking team in all 4 matches they've played. Every other team is kind of taking a match off or had a so-so game, except this team. These guys are second in goal scoring. They have James Rodriguez, who is lighting the lamp.
Yeah.
With he's leading the tournament in goals, and he has a few beauties.
Unreal first goal against Uruguay.
Yeah, well, and that just kind of sealed the deal. It was okay, you don't have Suarez. Well, here's our answer to this, that to him. And, well, now we're just going to play with the lead right now, so good luck with that.
Exactly. And speaking of that game, I mean, we watched 7 great games over the past week, and one game that was a bit of a letdown, and I don't know if it's directly... Well, it is directly related to Luis Suarez not being there. They're not the same team. And you saw it against Costa Rica, which I was also going to interject. They're a team that has played all 4 games so far. Them and Colombia, they've showed up to play. They know that the odds are against them, and they're putting it all on the line. And, I can rip on Greece all day long. They played almost half that game with an extra player. And I know that, you're a defensive-minded team, and you're not out there trying to blow teams away 5-1, 4-1. But when you've got an extra player for... I guess what it ended up being almost 90 minutes, or not quite 90, but almost 60 minutes of that 120 minutes that they played. You're telling me you can't score a second goal against them?
You got to try to press forward and score.
Absolutely, you got to take advantage. You don't want it to go to penalties. You don't want it to come to something almost as random as that.
Yeah, you have a numerical advantage. You might as well take advantage of that.
Oh, and Costa Rica even had breaks against them with a man down. I mean, if I'm Greece, I'm going to the drawing board and I'm going to the little leagues and the schoolyards, and I'm telling kids, take more shots. We need some shooters on this squad. No question.
How did you feel about the Netherlands-Mexico game?
I mean, it's so tough to pick a favorite game of the round of 16. But that could be it. That's a contender, if not 1A. And I knew it was going to be a tough game. Netherlands looked great, but so did Mexico. And that Mexican keeper played unbelievable against Brazil, so you knew he could pull it out again against the Netherlands.
I thought the telling stat coming into that game was the fact that Mexico had only allowed 1 goal in garbage time to Croatia.
Yep.
And you were facing the high-flying attack of the Dutchmen.
2 Robins.
That's it. And you just knew it was going to be the battle of two strongholds on each team. Who was going to reign superior? And I saw it up into the 88th minute. Mexico was winning. I thought, hey, these guys can pull it out.
Oh yeah, I was rooting for them. The underdog, the cheerer in me, rooting for the small guy, was super, super happy and stoked.
And then they're just one blown corner kick coverage away from Wesley Sneijder tying goal.
Yep.
And then a dubious penalty call.
You know what? I didn't mind the penalty call. The timing left a little something to be desired, but they'd been playing hard challenges against Artie and Robin all game long. Couple questionable, do you want to call them dives or flops or embellishments?
Embellishment's probably a good word for it. And that's what it was. It wasn't a dive and it wasn't a flop. It was more of an embellishment on the penalty call. And I just feel with that, the time and this, especially the time and the space.
The time's the biggest thing.
Where he is, too, it's not a scoring chance. Yeah. I feel like he embellishes the dive because he knows the support defender has the ball and he's shit out of luck. So I feel like that was kind of disappointing. But hey, to be honest, I'm glad to see Netherlands progress because they probably offer more the ways of exciting football than the El Tri did.
Yeah, they're a bigger threat to advance all the way to the finals potentially.
And then France-Nigeria, a little closer than we had expected.
And I had almost planned on taking the Saturday off of watching football because I didn't expect Nigeria or Algeria to put up fights against France or Germany respectively, and boy was I wrong. First of all, I am a little upset that Nigeria didn't manage to pull it off. Again, the part of me that's just rooting for the underdog. They held them, what was it, the 88th minute that France finally, or the 80th minute? Sorry, the 80th minute, yeah. So they played almost a full 90 without letting France's high-powered offense score. High-powered offense minus Ribéry, keep in mind. But that hadn't stopped them leading up to this game.
No, and you would have figured that France probably would have ran all over this. It was a thank you very much for being here, Nigeria.
That's what I was expecting.
But they played them tough, so hats off, or not hats off, we'll get there.
Yeah,
but
we're going to take our hats off later.
Kudos to the Screaming Eagles.
Absolutely.
And then another big kudos goes to their African neighbors.
Yep.
The Algerians playing Germany into a scoreless 90 minutes and then into extra time.
And it's funny, there were, I think there were 5 African sides that went to the World Cup this year. There was Algeria, Nigeria, Ghana,
Cameroon.
Cote d'Ivoire, and Cameroon. That's the 5th. And out of those, I would have picked Cote d'Ivoire and Ghana to be the 2 front runners. And here you got Algeria and Nigeria almost looking like the runts of the pack. And they're putting it on big time against European superpowers.
Well, it's funny, like Nigeria is the reigning African Cup of Nations title holders, and Algeria just qualified as well. But I would have expected those other 3 teams that didn't make it past groups qualifying to make the biggest impact. And here you go with my bottom 2 selections making the biggest impact.
Exactly.
So it shows how much I know about African soccer.
No kidding. Shout out to African soccer.
But yeah,
gotta watch out.
Big shout out to Soba. Little. But no, these guys play the Germans tough, and it even left some doubt in the Germans' mind on how well and how far they can go later in this tournament.
Exactly.
First matchup on the Monday, or the Tuesday, was it? It was the Tuesday. Switzerland, Argentina.
And
big game.
And this was a game. Oh, and I realized that I misspoke about my dates. I was doing a little drinking on the weekend. A couple of days blended together there. But on Tuesday, the day of sobering up, first game, you know what? It was exciting enough. The less games I get to watch of Switzerland, I appreciate. You know what? We'll call it as it is. Exactly. Switzerland and Greece, thanks for coming out. I'm sure you got some things to do back home. So why don't you go take care of them and let the big boys get back to the football.
Yeah. No, that game, it just hung in the balance for so long. And then it goes to extra time. You're like, oh, wow, what is going to happen? You got to feel, my heart was going out to Lionel Messi. Like, if he loses the extra time in Switzerland, that does nothing to help his reputation. Oh. And sure enough, he gets the ball on the left wing, shimmies through 3 defenders, and then lays off a perfect ball for Di Maria to slot home.
Yeah.
Just not the ideal ending I'm sure everybody in Argentina would have liked to see. It wasn't a 3-0 result or a 4-0 romp or anything like that, but it got the job done. This is a team in Argentina that has lots of holes and has a lot of pressure on Messi, which is kind of unfair. in a sport that's so. How well you do is determined by so much on how good your team is.
Yeah, it's very team oriented.
Yes. And it's probably the one sport in the world where one player cannot make that big a difference.
No, but at the same time, you don't get that pressure just by being Joe Schmo on the pitch.
No,
you know?
he is the best player in the world. But I mean, if he's playing on a flawed team like Argentina, what's it going to look like when he comes up against the Netherlands? You know.
Yep.
But when his team needed him that day, he showed up for them.
Yep, and you're right. You know what it says about just getting the win is one thing, but when it gets to extra time, it could have just as easily been 1-0 Swiss.
Yeah.
And then he's got some splaining to do.
Yeah.
But good on them for getting through. And how about the two top South American sides getting exposed by the looks of it? They're making Colombia look real good right now, Brazil and Argentina.
They are.
All right, and wrapping up the round of 16, we had USA-Belgium, which am picking as my favorite game of the round of 16. I mean, boy, those Americans, they don't quit. The stars and the stripes, buddy.
No, they ran out for 120 minutes flat. And You know what? They looked... that last 10 minutes of that match, they looked fresh.
Yep.
They were hell-bent on scoring that equalizing goal. They were a few breaks away from not. But that was probably the most exciting 15-20 minutes of football you're going to see.
Definitely.
You saw in those first.
It felt like watching the Heat on a full court press, watching the Boston Bruins on a power play. Like they were not going to be denied.
Yeah.
And it took a hot keeper and some stellar defense to keep them from scoring the equalizer there in the late minutes.
Yeah. No, it was almost one of the greatest comebacks ever.
Yep.
And I think it does well for Belgium moving forward as well.
Yep. And it says something about American soccer. I mean, and a little shout out to Jurgen Klinsmann. I don't know if it was his intention to rile up his squad by saying we can't win, or if now he's just sitting home real smug, being proud of himself for correctly predicting that the Americans weren't going to win. But either way, they've announced their presence in the current state of football.
I think they made the 3 last round of 16 for the World Cup.
Not last year. In 2010 they got knocked out in the group stages. I'm going to double check to verify, but I'm quite confident that.
Either way, this is a nation that needs to be considered not as a contender, but as a legitimate squad up in that upper echelon as a Colombia, as a Portugal to progress through.
Oh, you're right. I apologize. They did advance in 2010. So let me see if I'm going to be incorrect. I'm going to change my original criticism to 2006 and see if I'm correct about that. And I actually get a feeling that I'm not. But nope. So 2006 they didn't advance.
They did not advance.
So yeah, so I'm semi-correct. We'll call it a half and half.
Okay. Leads us to our next segment where we're taking our hats off.
Yep.
To some performers at this World Cup so far.
Yep. Giving out our own golden boot of sorts.
Well, this one more of the golden gloves right now.
Yep.
2 goalies that really stood on their heads. Tim Howard from the US of A stopped a record, 16 shots?
Oh, he played unbelievable. Played his heart out. Best performer on the American squad.
He has memes going out there on the internet now about him saving the Titanic, him saving Shovel Girl, him saving Mufasa. Yep. Like, it's just... this guy is all over the internet right now.
If you're not on Twitter, you better ask somebody.
That's it. And then...
Their partners to the south.
The El Tri, Guillermo Ochoa. This guy first came to light against Brazil in the group stage.
Oh, if you didn't know, well, you know now.
This guy's a player.
Yeah. A myriad of highlight saves, allowing only 1 goal in the group stages, and that's, as you mentioned before, in garbage time against Croatia. And he played his heart out against that high offense Netherlands squad. And he almost gave them the win. Took them to the 88th minute scoreless with a clean sheet.
Not much he could have done on the Schneider equalizer. Maybe he could have played the corner a little better, but Schneider was just left alone tracking outside the box. The ball fell to him perfectly. And then it's a penalty shot.
Exactly.
What can you
expect?
And
we all know the advantages with the shooter, and he's praying it works out, and it didn't. And now I'm gonna take my hat off to one of the African nations that we mentioned before, Algeria. First of all, getting the furthest that they ever have in the World Cup to the round of 16. And I just found this out today. They had 16 of their 23 players fasting. Is that correct? 16 of 23?
16 of 23 players were fasting for
Unbelievable.
Ramadan before their game against Germany.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not up there because they didn't win. It's not up there with Stanley Koufax, World Series. But that says a lot for Muslim athletes moving forward.
Absolutely.
And they played Germany hard as.
Yep. This is Germany we're talking about.
Yeah, this wasn't Greece.
No. No, this is a legit European superpower in the football world, and they took them to extra time.
If you're in Germany, wouldn't you? If you're on the German team, you're an official with the German soccer team. Wouldn't you be turning the valves in the dressing rooms and making it smell like hot dogs or German sausage or something? So just mind games, like having hot dog vendors coming through, just eating stuff on the bench.
You pull a little San Antonio, crank the air, turn the AC off or something like that.
Yeah, I'm not sure to what degree they were fasting, but would they be allowed water?
That I don't know. It's I've never partaken in Ramadan myself.
Because if not, that's really extraordinary. You're playing 120 minutes, no water, high paced, elite level. Sporting.
I mean, they advanced out of their group, and I had them slotted as the fourth seed in their group because first of all, Russia's no slouch, and South Korea, they can play as well. Yeah. And boy,
when they don't play, they get pelted with toffees.
Yeah, no kidding. Real talks.
Speaking of getting pelted, the Cleveland Cavaliers got pelted last year.
Yep, rightfully so.
And then landed the first overall pick again.
It's not Groundhog Day.
It's not Groundhog Day, but we are doing the NBA draft right now. And they chose from Thornhill Andrew Wiggins.
Mr. Andrew Wiggins. The early projected first overall pick ends up being the official first overall pick. Second year in a row that Canadians are picked first overall, with Anthony Bennett being taken the year before.
Going to Cleveland.
The Cleveland Cavaliers.
But in a total Cleveland Cavalier moment, they held a press conference to introduce Andrew Wiggins, and they introduced him as Mitchell Wiggins, his father.
Yeah.
I thought before the draft they didn't deserve it, and then you just go and prove that. They don't deserve that pick.
Just when you think they're turning things around, you get hit in the head with a Welcome to Ohio sign, you're still in Cleveland, boys.
Yeah, you're still on Lake Erie.
And you know what? I'm really rooting for them now just for the Canadian content. I mean, with the minimal Canadian content that there is in the league, even though it is improving. And shout out to Stauskas taking at 8 to the Kings, and Tyler Ennis taking at 18 to the Suns, following in Steve Nash's footsteps.
Sim Boullard picking up an invite to the Kings camp.
Yep. The Canadian content is rising, but the elite Canadian content is focused in Cleveland right now with the two top picks that we talked about and Tristan Thompson. So I'm really hoping they can put it together.
Yeah, that may not be the best place to have your top level talent. Nobody goes to Cleveland to develop.
Nobody goes to Cleveland, period.
I mean,
people go to Cleveland on layovers.
I mean, even Johnny Manziel, he got drafted to Cleveland, everything's expected, and now the guy's partying with Floyd Mayweather and J Beebs.
Spending as little time in Cleveland as he has to, and rightfully so. He'll be there for 8 days next year. Count it, those 8 home games. That's it. Yeah. All right, and
speaking of home, the Raptors taking our boy Borat's cousin, taking Bruno
Caboclo. Spelled Caboclo, but we've been told it's pronounced Caboclo. We won't know for another 4 years, potentially.
The Brazilian maestro. The Brazilian Kevin Durant.
Yep.
I don't know exactly what that means, because we've heard in the past that Boris Diaw was supposed to be the French Michael Jordan.
Yeah. So by those standards...
A little timid here to
see you on the pine, Bruno.
Interesting pick.
Very interesting. And you know what? My biggest concern was I was led to believe through news stories and whatnot that Kyle Lowry was out of Toronto. He was not interested in re-signing. So when we passed on Shabazz Napier, that was a real red flag to me. Now that the deal's been done with Kyle Lowry, I'm a little bit more content with this pick. And I read an article, I believe it was in the Toronto Star, Doug Smith, I believe, was pointing out that, Masai Ujiri, since he's been in Toronto, he's done nothing but great things for the team. And he's got a team that is really hard-pressed to attract big-name free agents and make those big trades. So if you see that elite-level talent out there, you got to snatch it up while you can. And so they had Ennis as their number one guy to be taken at 20th, and they had Kabola to be taken with their 37th pick, or with the 37th pick in the draft. But then when Tyler Ennis got snapped up 2 picks before, he becomes your top guy, and if you don't take him there, then you regret not doing it later. So you sort of you go for the long shot and you pick up this guy, and just because we've never heard of him and it might not be something that we would do or that anybody other than Masai Ujiri would do, doesn't make it a bad pick. We gotta if we had faith in him before the draft, we should have faith in him after the draft. So I'll give him the benefit of the doubt for the time being.
20th overall is still a bit of a crapshoot. I mean,
it's true.
It's not the second round. You're still going to find talent in the first round, but I mean, it's not like no one's ever going, the 20th overall pick, what a bust.
Yeah.
There's no Rafael Arujos at number 20. They just become a player that didn't pan out, and it's not the end of the world.
Yep.
If this was the 5th overall pick, yes, exactly. Then you should be more concerned. But 20th overall, you can pick a Joey Graham, or you can end up with Danny Granger.
Or Bruno Kabola.
Yep. Speaking of Lowry, the free agency has kicked off.
Yep.
And we still don't know what's going to happen with the decision part 2.
Yeah, it's kicked off, but you really wouldn't know it by checking. The big three have given Miami a window. Apparently they've given them, or Miami has $12 million to expend on improving their team somehow, whether that becomes more by getting rid of some players, possibly in the form of a sign and trade. Who knows? I've heard that teams have lost interest in even talking to LeBron right now because they're given this window to the Heat, and I respect that. I bet Cleveland would have enjoyed a little bit of a window to try to improve their team, but they've done their own thing this offseason, making the biggest signing really, signing Kyrie Irving when he had expressed interest in playing for 29 teams not named the Cavaliers.
Yeah.
So you know what? I guess he sees the upside there potentially. He's giving them a 5-year window, and who knows? They could bring in LeBron James, or LeBron James for the poor man's LeBron James and Carmelo Anthony, which is probably a big compliment to Carmelo Anthony.
We're gonna see where he ends up.
But yeah, still a lot of big names waiting to see where they fall.
The Melo sweepstakes are probably the major movers right now until LeBron makes his decision, because he wants max money. Bosh and Wade opted out of their contracts so that they could all reunite in Miami.
Yep.
And try to take another run at this. But I think what they might not be understanding is that LeBron's going to get his money. D-Wade and Bosh will make about 12 to 10 mil each, which is still a significant amount. But it'll also open up the room for Melo or another big name to come.
Yep.
They don't necessarily need a big name. It wasn't their big names that shat the bed, that weren't there for them in the finals besides Dwayne Wade. Bosh was good. LeBron was great. It was their role players that were non-existent.
Yep.
The only player they have under contract for next year is Norris Cole. Can't have your backup point guard as the only person you have under contract.
Nope, I agree. And you look when they've made, it's not like they're, in 30th place trying to completely rebuild. They were in the finals last year. They were in the finals 4 years in a row. So clearly they don't need, you're right, they don't need to sign a big name, but they just need their role players to really improve. If they make a trade, you look at the Spurs, if they can get a Miami Heat version of Boris Diaw on their team, on their squad, if they can go out and I really like the pickup, the trade for Shabazz Napier that they did on draft day, because they don't need a point guard, but it never hurts to have a top level prospect point guard.
No,
and that's exactly what he is. So, I do see them improving. Whether they improve enough in LeBron's eyes is the big question that remains to be seen. One team or one player putting forth the minimalist of efforts, in all honesty, it is a joke effort, and it is very humorous, was Joel Embiid, who fell to the 3rd overall pick because of his foot injury, presumably, on his Twitter, and I quote, at King James, "Hey bro, hope you're having a good day, ... Want to join us in Philly? Peace." That's hilarious.
Way to make an impression for yourself from the get-go.
No, I love that. And if I'm a Philadelphia 76ers fan, I'm loving our team. Not this year, not next year, but 3 years, 4 years from now, when you got MCW, Joel Embiid, Thaddeus Young, Nerlens Noel. I mean, you're building your team the
Sounds like
right
a wrestling
way.
Roster. Sounds like a bunch of WWE stars.
Don't put it past them. If basketball don't work out.
Bad boy Philly.
But you know what? And you're still in a really weak Eastern Conference, and like I said, you're not going to improve next year, so you're going to get another lottery pick. If I'm a Sixers fan, I'm not displeased. I'm going to spend the next couple of years really getting into my Philadelphia Phillies, really cheering for the Eagles. Go Flyers, go! But then I'm going to keep all my Sixers gear for 3-4 years down the road, and I'm going to wear it with pride.
Okay, moving on to another draft class and the term week. The NHL was where Sam Bennett could not manage to pull up any higher than 4th.
I see what you did there. Flames. I see what you did there.
Not much else excitement happening. This guy was kind of hyped up the last 2 weeks. I don't know for what reason. Good
Somebody
player.
somewhere wanted to hype him up, and everybody else jumped on board.
It wasn't going to be the 1st overall pick with Aaron Ekblad in that draft class, and even Reinhart and this sniper.
He wasn't even the best Sam in the draft class.
No.
Now, let's get one thing straight.
So he goes 4th. Ekblad, Reinhart, Draisaitl.
Leonis Draisaitl, I believe. Don't quote me on that.
No heartwarming stories like the NBA had with the Baylor center, but
Isaiah Austin. I mean, my hat's off to Adam Silver. That was a real classy move. And you know what? For a guy who's only been in the league for I think half a year, he's had to deal with some pretty tough stuff, and he's come out on top. And he's had his first draft, and he's come out on top. I can see big things in his future, and I was a big doubter, but I'm looking forward to what he does going forward.
Seems to be a little bit different than Sterling.
It seems to be very different than Gary Bettman, who got booed as he does. Yeah, and I mean, showing up in Philly, it's no different. You had to know that going into it. But yeah, I mean, this draft, I see only 2 players being even NHL ready next year.
What about Nylander? Nylander, the Leafs kid.
And you know what? And I've been hearing a whole bunch of flack about the Leafs not taking the best available player. But you know what? When you're the Leafs, you've had a lot of busts recently. You have not handled your top picks well. So right now, you don't need to go out and pick the player with the best potential. You need to pick the player who can make an impact as soon as possible. And I think they've got that in William Nylander.
Yeah.
You know what?
Apparently the kid can play, but apparently the kid has a bit of an attitude around him too.
Yeah, I've heard that. And you know what? They'll put that in check right away in Toronto.
They've done that so well with Nazem Kadri.
Yeah. But you know what?
Not everybody comes here as James Reimer.
No, it's true. I think once he gets settled, and I mean, Randy Carlyle's not going to put up with that. With all due respect to Nylander, you're not Nazem Kadri.
No.
You know what? He was the hottest thing to hit Toronto since sliced bread when they picked him up. And right now, everybody's complaining about you, Nylander. So what you need to do is figure out where you fit in, or you'll be shipped out for a bag of pucks and Phil Kessel.
That's it.
But unlike the NBA, where there was an exciting draft and not much happening free agency-wise, there has been a whole lot of movement on the NHL market.
$500 million on Canada Day alone was spent on free agents.
Pretty unbelievable. Says something about the way that teams improve, or at least attempt to improve in the NHL versus the NBA.
Do you have your winners and losers?
I sure do.
For free agency and the trades. Let's go with your winners to start.
Winners, all right. Well, I'm going to start off with St. Louis, and they picked up arguably the best player available through either free agency or through trades in Paul Stastny. He's immediately going to make their offense better. They lost Ryan Miller, but in all fairness to Ryan Miller, he was picked up as a rental, and they've still got Jake Allen and Brian Elliott in net, which is a great young tandem there. And they even added Carl Gunnarsson for extra defensive depth to a blue line that was already pretty studly. I mean, that's the thing. They didn't lose much. They lost the one rental in Miller, and they picked up Stastny and Gunnarsson. I'm looking for big things from St. Louis going forward. They are my first winner.
I like Dallas. I like the addition of Spezza. Big trade for Spezza, and then once you have him, you go and you get Hemsky.
Yep, great move.
For the chemistry they have. That's just solidifying their second line. And now it gives them some depth behind Seguin and Ben.
That's the big key, is that, in Ottawa, they were playing pretty well, getting first-line minutes. Now they're going to be getting second-line minutes, so that the aging Spezza and the mid-age getting sort of down the hill.
Hemsky's been around, I feel like, forever.
Well, that's the thing. Both of these players, they're certainly not at the beginning of their careers, to say the least. So giving them second-line minutes is going to be a big benefit for them. And they also pick up Anders Lindback to play behind Kari Lehtinen. Makes a little bit of a good goalie duel there. I really like Dallas as well. But for my money, my next pick is going to be the Buffalo Sabres. And I know that seems a little out in left field, but hear me out. They're a team clearly in the midst of a rebuild. Clearly, but they've rebuilt properly. They've got two stud defensemen that they picked up last year in Erasmus Ristolainen and Nikita Zadorov. Two big, towering, puck-moving defensemen. This year they go out and they draft Sam Reinhart, who, along with Ekblad, I think are the only prospects NHL ready. And then in terms of free agents and trades, they pick up Brian Giunta, they pick up Josh Georges, who just both left Montreal. So they're familiar with each other. They're familiar with Buffalo being a division rival. They pick up Matt Molson, who's a player. He can play.
They re-signed Molson. Good for them.
And they pick up Andre Mazzaros, who, speaking as a Flyers fan who's seen Mazzaros play, you know what? He's been around the league for a while, but he's a solid second or third line defenseman. And right now in Buffalo, he may have to start taking those first line minutes, but the disparity between the first, second, and third lines isn't much. So he'll be very interchangeable, and he brings a lot of leadership to that young defensive core as well. Mm-hmm. So I think that's another big pickup for them. I wouldn't be surprised to see Buffalo finish at the bottom of that division again. However, I would be surprised if, sort of like the Sixers in the NBA, if in 3 to 4 years they're not in the playoffs. I think they're building the right way.
I like the Hawks picking up Brad Richards as a third-line center.
Yep.
I think behind Taves and Sharp, he's a bit of an upgrade over Jesus. He can play on your power play. He can penalty kill for you. And at the discount rate that they got him, I think it's going to be a good fit for them, especially in a conference like the Western Conference where you're seeing teams just load up at the center position.
Well, exactly. The biggest name centers, three big name centers, Spezza, Stastny, and Kessler all signed with West Coast teams.
I really like the Kings picking up the option, or keeping the option of Mike Richards.
Yeah.
It's going to cost them money, but at the same time, he's not going to be going to a rival.
No.
Unless they trade him to somebody, but they're not going to trade him to an Anaheim or Chicago.
No, exactly. And you know what?
If they bought him out, he could have went to Chicago, and then it's like, oh, great.
And again, speaking as a Flyers fan who's seen Mike Richards play a lot, he's lost a step, but he's got a lot of the intangibles. He's got a lot of those things that you wish other players would have. He's got that leadership. He's got vision. He can play all three phases of the game. And he's won 2 rings with them. He's been part of the 2 championship teams.
Yeah.
So yeah, I agree. I think that's a good move for them. And also signing Marian Gaborik long term with a cap hit, I believe just under $4 million, is great. Even if he only plays 5 of those seasons, you're getting him at a good rate. And even playing second line minutes, he's a valuable asset. All right, and with the winners, we have to have the losers. And I made the point of mentioning that I am a Flyers fan twice. So this is completely, I guess, unbiased and even just more, I don't know. This is a really dark place that I have to go to on this one. My first loser is my Philadelphia Flyers. And I'll tell you why. They, as great as Paul Holmgren has been for our franchise, and I can't overstate that, we are the only team who entered July 1st above the salary cap, and we needed to sign 5 players. We don't even have a full roster, and we're already over the salary cap. We're paying Chris Pronger through the 2016-2017 season, which, I mean, you know, we would have been doing either way. We would have been happy to do that if he was healthy. The fact that he's not, there's not much that he or anybody can do about it, so it's sort of just something that you have to take with a grain of salt, but it still definitely hurts. And just to, I guess, reiterate some of the poor contracts that we have had signed, even though it is against the cap, we're going to be paying Daniel Briere to play against us until 2016-17, and same thing with Ilya Brizgalov for another 11 years after that. He will be getting a check from the Flyers through 2027-28. And then on top of all that, our star player, our captain of our team, gets thrown in the slammer for the night for squeezing a policeman's ass. I'm speechless.
I think the biggest loss, well, that's obviously huge for Giroux's reputation, but
yeah,
one of the more telling quotes I saw from Canada today, which was the start of free agency, came from who's your GM?
Now it's Ron Hextall.
Ron Hextall, that's who it was. Ron Hextall was quoted by the Toronto Star saying something about their inactivity while he was on a golf course. If I'm a GM of an NHL club, there's 3 days of the year I'm not permitted to be on a golf course. The draft,
trade deadline.
The scouting combine and the draft. So 4 days. Those two, trade deadline, start of free agency.
Yeah, I agree.
Every other day of the year, I can go golfing.
361 days to hit the links.
Why are you golfing July 1st?
Yeah. And it does speak to our situation. I mean, we made one signing on that day, and to his credit, it was a great signing. Re-upping Ray Emery for another year. They had a great goalie tandem last year in Emery and in Mason. But you're right. When you know that you have to move some players, you know that your team's in a bad situation. We can't even play right now without putting some big-name players on waivers and letting them get picked up by other teams. So he needs to spend every minute in the office making some deals.
Yeah.
So the Flyers are clearly losers. You got a loser, Boyce?
I got the Leafs.
Okay.
Seems like everybody they wanted or had interest in coming to had zero interest in coming back to them.
Absolutely.
Josh George is being the biggest name there.
Yeah, the most vocal about not wanting to be a Leaf.
Yeah, and rightfully so. Good on him. He's not putting on the Johnny Damon jersey anytime soon. I like the pickup they have of Komarov coming back. I always was a fan of his, especially the parody account on Twitter. Thought, that was always hilarious.
Yep.
Stefan Robida in his prime was a good player. I don't know if picking a player that old coming off a shattered leg is the right move.
No, I agree with you there 100%.
And you just traded away one of your prospects for Matt Fratton, who you had last year.
Yeah. No, it's...
Why? You found it okay to depart with him, Nonis. Why would you then turn around and trade one of your up-and-coming players who had a pretty good year for the Marlies in the playoffs?
It's true.
Why would you trade him for Fratton, again, who struggled last year? If you really wanted him, then wait. I'm pretty sure Columbus wasn't going to pick him up, or they might not even they just might have waived him.
And what makes Dave Nonis really look bad right now was that Garth Snow, who gets ripped on for the full 365 days a year, goes out and picks up one Leaf, one ex-Leaf in Grabowski and Kuhlman, signs them both to 5-year deals because he knows that they play well together. And if Toronto doesn't want to keep their good role players, then hey, we'll pick them up. We'll give them a job on the aisle, and we'll see what happens playing behind Tavares. Yeah. And you know what? I smell some big things. This could be the first really solid move by the man who signed DiPietro to a 20-plus year deal.
Not really, really confounded by those.
Yeah.
And then you have another loser, don't you?
I do. And this one is another sort of out of left field pick, it may seem, but I'm choosing the Anaheim Ducks as a loser. And they were the first team to make a big move in making the trade for Ryan Kesler, who is a hell of a player. I can't say anything bad about Ryan Kesler, but who's going to play with Ryan Kesler?
Yeah, they don't have very, very good wingers, do they?
They've got one unbelievable winger, maybe one of the top 2 or 3 wingers in the league in Corey Perry, and then it drops off to Kyle Palmieri. Really, is that your next best winger? And then I'm looking up and down the roster. I mean, is Andrew Cogliano, who I believe is a natural center, is he going to play with Ryan Kesler, or is it going to be Jakob Silverberg? I mean, I don't know. So if I'm Ryan Kesler, sure, I'm excited to get out of Vancouver. I'd rather spend 8 months of the year in Anaheim than I would in Vancouver, even though Vancouver is gorgeous. But yeah, I don't think that they went the right way. They made the right first move, but then their second and third moves should have been picking up extra wingers to play with Kesler, but instead they signed Jason LaBarbera to back up John Gibson. Are you kidding me? And neither of those players, on their best day, comes close to replacing Jonas Hiller.
No.
So they're losers in my book. And you got a loser as well to go with them?
Just quickly, the Avalanche. I think they got hosed with the Daniel Briere trade.
Terrible hosing.
And then they let go of Stastny. We'll see what Magic Patrick can do with Danny, but...
Danny and Iginla picking up a few old guys.
Actually, I don't mind the Iginla pickup, but yeah, we'll see. I think that Stastny loss is going to hurt them, and same with losing a role player who can kind of score if he has the right talent around him in Parento.
It's true. All right, and we're gonna switch it up to the fourth major North American sport. We're gonna talk about our Toronto Blue Jays.
Go to the diamond.
Now, what was it, 2 podcasts ago we were singing their praises. Last podcast we were ripping them to shreds, so it's only right that this one we just speak pretty neutral about them.
Yeah.
They are holding the fort.
They're holding the fort down. They're still first, and the big bats are back.
Yep. Literally and metaphorically. Joey Bats is back, and Encarnacion hits a walk-off last night.
Yeah.
And you know what? And helping us out, the Yankees have dropped 5 straight. So right now, I got nothing really to complain about. If I'm the Jays, we knew that the bats were eventually going to come back. So hopefully they don't. They stay a little consistent for a while.
Stay this time.
Exactly. So no, I'm happy with the Jays right now. Just keep on keeping on, Toronto.
That's it. And speaking of keep on keeping on and making us very happy, we got some Canadian contingent down in the All England Club.
Yep.
Playing in London.
Down or across?
Wimbledon.
More across.
More across than down, you're right.
Yeah, making a lateral move. Yeah, shout out to Milos Raonic and Jeannie Bouchard.
Jeannie Army back. She's in the finals.
She is in the finals.
She's made it to the Wimbledon finals.
Everybody,
good on you, girl.
Wake up early. Tune in. Saturday, she's playing Petra Kvitova for the Wimbledon title.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we gotta mention Raonic is in the semifinals, playing against Roger Federer. Gonna be a great match.
Milos, let's go, buddy. The time is right to knock that guy off. Let's go.
Yep, and you know what? And I've been a Federer fan for a long, long time, but he is in the downswing and he's not getting any better, you know?
No.
So really, Raonic, if you're listening, this is your time. Show and prove.
Here we go. Okay, we're back to the pitch. We're going to do a one-off for all the quarterfinal matches, and then we're going to pick our ideal final and the result of that final.
Let's do it.
Okay, so Brazil-Colombia tomorrow. Who do you like?
I like Brazil. Yeah, I think a close game. I'm calling 2-1 Brazil.
Really close game. A little more scoring than yours. I'd like Brazil too. I'm going to go 3-1 Brazil.
3-1. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then the afternoon match, the earlier match, we actually have Germany and France.
Yeah.
I think that's probably going to be, that's almost the highest octane match of the quarterfinals.
Yep, I agree. I've got that one going to extra time. And I'm taking Germany. I'm going to take Germany. I'm going to take them 3-2.
Okay. Penalties or extra time?
No penalties, just extra time.
Okay, I like France 4-2.
Ooh, okay.
They're gonna cut up the German defense.
You think so? All right, fair enough. All right, and then moving over to what's it going to be? To Saturday morning, we got Argentina and Belgium. Who do you like?
That game, I am going to take my Argentinian wine over my Belgian chocolate any day of the week. 3-1, 2 goals by Messi.
Okay. I feel the opposite. I would like to see Argentina win, but I think Belgium's going to pull it out. I think Belgium looked better against the U.S. than Argentina did against Switzerland. So I'm going to take Belgium over Argentina 2-0.
Wow.
Holds them off the scoreboard.
Okay.
That Belgium defense.
That leaves us Costa Rica and Netherlands.
Yep.
Let's see how much you like the underdogs right now.
Yeah. No, I'm sorry, Costa Rica. Los Ticos, this is where you check out Netherlands 4-1. 4-1 Netherlands.
I'm going Costa Rica.
Are you now?
I'm going to go Costa Rica. It's going to be an all Latin American podium finish.
Really?
I like Costa Rica coming out to a 2-0 lead and winning 2-1.
Wow. Then you've even gotten them either playing in the third place game or in the World Cup finals against France or Germany.
I have them beating France in the bronze medal.
Wow.
Match.
All right. So then your ideal final.
I like Argentina, Brazil.
Okay.
That's my ideal final. And Argentina crushing the hopes of the nation.
Ooh.
Lionel Messi cementing his place with the best footballers of all time and showing he is still 2 classes above Neymar. Argentina 4, Brazil 2.
And you know what? And I can't argue with the fact that if that happens, he would cement his place in football history. However, for me, my ideal matchup would be Netherlands-Brazil, just because I think that's the one that's going to lead to the most high-octane offense, potentially one of the best World Cup finals we've seen in recent memory. And I think Netherlands comes out on top 3-2.
I feel any other team in the finals, I think Brazil will win. I just don't think if they have to play Argentina, like that would be an epic game of massive proportions, and you can't even begin to fathom how important it would be. And I just feel the pressure would get to the Brazilian side.
Yep.
They would probably crack. And you know what? It really does come down to Messi and Neymar. And I just feel that I feel Argentina can rally around Messi better than Brazil would rally around Neymar.
Well, and the other thing, and this was true even from day one, Brazil's the team with the most to lose.
Yeah.
So, it's not like last year with South Africa where it's a win if they get into the knockout round.
Score a goal.
Yeah. It's a loss if they come in second. They need to win. It's win or nil.
Yeah. Okay, guys, that was it for this week. We'll catch you, I guess, after the final.
Yep, taking a break. I'm going on a little vacation myself.
And just see how close we were to our predictions. Thanks for tuning in this week.
I'm Ryan Troke.
I'm Andrew Boyce. And as always, today was live and unscripted from the East Spot.
Yep.
Have yourselves a great weekend.
Do enjoy the finals. Watch some sports. Go Roundich and Bouchard.
Genie!